Namaskar everybody, greetings. Hope you are all doing well. The New Year celebration is approaching, Kalpataru and also Holy Mother's Puja. So this Saturday, January 1st, we will combine both the celebrations. Kalpataru Puja and Holy Mother's birthday both will be celebrated on January 1st. And the puja begins at 11 o'clock. It will be live streamed. You can all watch from home. Now let us begin with a Shanti Mantra. This is on page 50 of the book Universal Prayers. The second one on page 50. Om Sham No Mitra Sham Varuna Sham No Bhavatvaryama Sham Na Indra Brahaspatihi Sham No Vishnurukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadvaktaramavatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the presiding deity of day be propitious to us. May the presiding deity of night be propitious to us. May the presiding deity of the sense of vision be propitious to us. May the gods of strength and intellect, may the gods of strength and of intellect also be propitious to us. May the all-pervading Lord be propitious. Adoration to Brahman, adoration to Thee, the controller of activities. Thou art verily the visible Brahman. Verily I will declare Thee to be the visible Brahman. The right will I speak, the truth will I speak. May Brahman protect me. May Brahman protect the preceptor. May he protect me. May he protect the preceptor. Om peace. May there be peace and joy in our hearts. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. And may there be peace everywhere in nature. Let us continue the study of 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. This 6th chapter is called Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana Yoga means the chapter which deals with the topic of meditation. Very important topic. Very good. Last time we were studying the two slokas 16 and 17 in chapter 6. In these two slokas, Bhagavan Sri Krishna gives instructions on a very important topic, namely moderation in everything. Sri Ramakrishna also taught the same thing. He said, follow the middle path, not going to either extreme in all matters, especially in the matter of food, work, relaxation and sleep. Food and sleep. These are two things where people tend to go to either extreme. Either some people eat too much more than is needed. Some people don't eat enough. And sleep also. Some people sleep too much, some people cannot sleep much. Similarly, in the matter of work, some people are workaholics. They don't know when to stop. They keep on working. neglecting other aspects of life, family and health, work. That is not good. Some people don't work enough. They take it easy. That is not enough either. Middle path. And then relaxation. Same thing about rest and relaxation. So these two shlokas, I will chant them once and we will understand the significance of this teaching. Natyashnatastu yogosti nachaikantamanashnataha nachati swapnashilasya jagrato naiva charjuna yuktahara viharasya yuktacheshtasya karmasu yuktesvapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. The first compound word in shloka 16, na ati ashnataha tu. Three words are combined, natyashnatastu. So when you come across some combined word like this, compound word like this, you have to break them down. Then meaning becomes easier to understand. Na ati ashnataha. Ati means too much. Ashnata means one who eats too much. Tu means however. Four words. Na ati ashnatastu. Natyashnatastu. For such a person who eats too much, yoga asti. Yoga is not possible. Any kind of yoga, even bhakti yoga is not possible if a person eats too much, feels sleepy, lazy, lethargic. Nachaikantamanashnataha. Or a person who does not eat enough, that is also not good. Nacha ati swapnashilasya. Swapnashila means one person sleeps too much. Ati swapnashilat. Ati swapnashila. For such a person, yoga is not possible. Jagrato naiva charjuna. Jagrata means one who stays awake all the time, late into night and not getting enough sleep. That's not good for a spiritual seeker. A 17th verse, there Bhagavan advises moderation. Yuktahara viharascha. Yukta means in proper measure. Not too much, not too little. Yukta ahara vihara. Ahara means food, moderation in food. Vihara means relaxation. Yukta cheshtasya karmasu. Moderation in cheshtasya karmasu, in activity. Whatever activity, it may be office work. Some people don't go home at the right time. They go late in night, neglecting family and one's own health. That should not be done. Yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnavabodhasya. Swapna means sleeping. Dream means sleeping. Avabodha means waking. In sleep also, moderation should be followed. For such a person, yoga bhavati dukkha. Yoga becomes, removes the misery, suffering. Dukkha means suffering of all kinds. Dukkha, the suffix ha means hananam, that which removes dukkha. Dukkha. Yoga bhavati dukkha. For a person who practices moderation in all these things, yoga removes all kinds of misery for such a person. So the summary is moderation in everything. Now Sri Ramakrishna gave the same instruction. I am going to read a short passage from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, where he asked to women devotees not to fast. This is on page 432 and 33 of the Gospel. 432 Actually, it begins on 431, the previous page. Page 431 of the Gospel. I'll read parts of this passage. I'll skip some lines. Two ladies, devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, entered the room and saluted the master. They had been fasting in preparation for this visit. They were sisters-in-law, the wives of two brothers, and were 22 or 23 years old. They were mothers of children. Both of them had their faces covered with veils. So Sri Ramakrishna gives them instruction. Worship Shiva. This worship is described in the book called Nitya Karma, so we'll skip the instructions part. He asks them to worship Shiva, arranging flowers, making sandal paste and all those things. And he gives instruction, when you two sisters talk to each other, always talk about spiritual matters, not worldly matters. That instruction. Now page 432. Then we'll skip some lines. The elder sister-in-law asks, will you please give us some instruction? Master affectionately, I don't give initiation, etc. The Divine Mother has performed the Shiva Puja as I told you. That's the instruction to them. Perform Shiva Puja as I told you. Come here now and then. We shall see what happens later on through the will of God. I asked you to chant the name of Hari at home. Are you doing that? Elder sister-in-law says, yes. Now comes the instruction on moderation. Master, why have you fasted? You should take your meal before you come here. Women are but so many forms of my Divine Mother. This very important statement. To Sri Ramakrishna, any woman, does not matter what kind of woman, what family, nothing. All women he considered as the Divine Mother herself. This is mentioned in the Chandi, Devi Mahatmyam. Many of you are familiar with Chandi or Devi Mahatmyam. There, in the 11th chapter, the 6th verse, there the Rishi says, Markandeya Rishi says, Vidya samastas tavadevi bhedah Sriyas samasta sakala jagatsu Tvayekaya puritamamba etat Kote stutista vyapara poroktihi. O Divine Mother, sakala jagatsu samastaha striyaha tavarupa bhedam. In the whole world, in all the worlds, all women are your personification, your embodiments, your forms. That Sri Ramakrishna literally followed all his life. So he says that to these women. He says, you are all, why have you fasted? You should take your meal before you come here. Women are but so many forms of my Divine Mother. I cannot bear to see them suffer. You are all images of the Mother of the universe. Come here after you have eaten, and you will feel happy. So in this way, then saying this, Sri Ramakrishna asked Ramlal to give the ladies some food. They were given fruits, sweets, drink and other offerings from the temple. The master said, you have eaten something. Now my mind is at peace. I cannot bear to see women fast. See, this is Sri Ramakrishna's instruction on moderation in everything. Fasting too much is not good. Now, the topic of moderation we have studied in all matters, following the middle path, in verses 16 and 17. Now we go to verse number 18. Here onwards, the next few shlokas, Bhagavan Sri Krishna explains the state of mind of a person who follows these rules and who succeeds in meditating. how that person's mind becomes so calm and concentrated and always dwells on the divine. No interest in worldly matters, always dwells on divine. One thing. Second thing is, for a person who meditates, who can meditate deeply and keep the mind fixed on the divine self within, for such a person, no problem will affect. That such a person will not be affected by any problem, no matter how severe. All those things will come in the next few verses. So, verse number 18. Yada vinayatam chittam atmanyevavatisthate nisprahas sarvakamebhyo yukta ityuchyate tada. Who can be said to have achieved concentration in meditation, success in meditation? That is explained here. When the well-controlled mind abides solely in the self, rid of cravings for objects of desires, one is said to be integrated in yoga. When can we say a person has achieved success in yoga practice? That is explained here. Yada, when chittam, vinayatam chittam. Vinayatam chittam means controlled mind. When a person's mind is controlled, atmani eva avatisthate. A controlled mind stays only on the Atman, does not dwell on the world at all, except maybe for required necessities. No thought about the world, what other people are doing, what's happening in the world, what food to eat. No such worldly thoughts in the mind. Only thinking about the divine self, God. Controlled mind, with a controlled mind. Vinayatam chittam atmani eva, in the self alone, avatisthate, stays firm, remains concentrated on the self. Sarvakamebhya nispraha. Another quality is free from all craving for sense objects. Kama also means sense objects, kama also means desire. Kama also means desire of objects of desire is also called kama. Sarvakamebhya nispraha. Spraha means desire, craving. Trishna, thirst for sense objects, sense pleasures. When a person is free from cravings for sense pleasures, sense objects, sarvakamebhya nispraha, vinayatam chittam, a person with controlled mind, whose mind always stays on the self, atmani eva avatisthate. When a person achieves this degree of meditation, success in meditation, tada saha yukta iti uchyate. Then a person is said to have achieved success in meditation. These are the goals for us to be achieved. You may not be there now, but you have to keep, this is what you have to strive to achieve. You have to achieve with a controlled mind. We should keep our mind always fixed on the self or on God. Devotees think about their Chishta Devata. Jnani's think about the self within Atman. And free from all desire for sense objects. Sarvakamebhya nispraha. We have to practice these things. These are the goals we have to achieve, and these are the things we have to practice. Tada, such a person then, yukta iti uchyate, is said to be successful in meditation, integrated in yoga. Then he gives an example. A person's mind should be unwaveringly staying on God, object of meditation, not going here and there. The example he gives is, Bhagavan Sri Krishna gives is, like a flame, a candle flame or a lamp flame, which remains unwavering, steady, in a windless place. If there is wind, the flame goes here and there, wavers. If there is no wind, everything is still, then the flame remains steady, unmoving. In the same way, the mind of a yogi must remain unwavering as a flame in a windless place. That is explained in verse number 19. Yatha deepo nivatastho nengate sopama smrita yogino yata chittasya yunjato yogamatmanaha. As a light in a windless place does not stir. This is the simile of the yogi whose mind is controlled and who applies himself to yoga. We should apply our mind to a practice of meditation in such a way that it does not waver from the object of meditation. You should not think of any other object except the object of meditation, our Ishtadevata, chosen ideal, or whatever we have chosen to meditate upon. On that the mind should stay. Another example they gave in scripture says, Tailadharavat avichinnam. Taila means oil. Dhara means stream. Avichinnam means unbroken. Just like when you pour oil from one cup to another container, it flows in an unbroken stream. There is no breakage, continuous flow. In the same way, the mind must remain continuously on the object of meditation, Tailadharvadavichinnam, like a stream of oil. Another example. Here the example is like a flame in a windless place. Even if there is a slight wind, the flame wavers. In a place where there is no wind, the flame remains steady, unwavering. In the same way, yoginaha, yatachittasya yogina, of a yogi whose mind is controlled. Atmana yoga myunjataha, one who is practicing concentration on the self. Of such a person, the mind remains steady, unwavering, like the flame of a candle or light that remains steady and unwavering in a place where there is no wind. That means without distraction, without mind wandering here and there, we should continuously think about our object of meditation. The problem is intruding thoughts come. No matter how we try to practice concentration, somehow all unwanted thoughts will come at the time of meditation, which you have never thought, or we don't remember having thought. They come. So what to do when such a thing happens will be explained in the later 5 slokas later. It will be explained how to deal with intruding, distracting thoughts. Will come in verse number 26. The other verses will finish quickly. Verse number 20. Yatra paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyan atmani tushyati. Person atmani tushyati. In the Atman, tosha means joy. Takes joy only in the Atman. No attraction towards worldly objects and situations. When through the practice of yoga, yoga sevaya, the motionless mind, niruddham chittam. Chitta means mind, niruddha means control. Nirodha means control. Niruddham chittam, how mind is controlled? Yoga sevaya, by the practice of yoga. Yoga means meditation. Yatra paramate, where the mind dwells on the self. When through the practice of yoga, the motionless mind withdraws from the objects and rejoices in the self, beholding the self by one's inner sense. Chittam yatra uparamate. Uparati, uparama means remaining still, free from distractions and wavering. Yatra chaiva atmana atmanam pashyan. Seeing the self, with the mind. Atmana atmanam pashyan. And seeing this, beholding the self by one's own inner sense. The mind is the perceiver, the self is being perceived. The mind should not be allowed to dwell on sense objects outside. Atmani tushyati, takes rejoice in the self alone. Really, all happiness comes only from the self. Though it appears they come from sense objects, worldly objects, happiness seems to come from property, possessions, power, fame, other people, relationships, child and grandchild and relatives. Happiness seems to come from these sources. But really, the only source of true happiness is the self, Atman alone. These are simply triggering or reflecting objects. You can't depend upon them. That we studied in the 5th chapter, Shloka 22. The happiness that seems to come from worldly objects is not true happiness at all. It only causes disillusionment and misery at the end. So that is a very important topic that we learnt in chapter 5. And that's why Nachiketa rejected all the things that Yama offered. Those are the kind of things that people ordinarily seek for happiness. A large kingdom, becoming a king, queen, and horses and chariots and big treasury and elephants and everything, and a long life to enjoy these things. These are what people ask for. Nachiketa said, there is no happiness in these things. I want only self-knowledge. That is the sign of a seeker. You should seek only what is worthwhile seeking. Other things are not worthwhile. They promise a lot but deliver little. At the end, we will be left with unhappiness. Dukkha yonaya evate. 522. Remember the shloka, chapter 5, shloka 22. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. Adyantavantah kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. An ordinary person seeks happiness in sense objects outside. Samsparshaja bhoga. Happiness coming from contact with sense objects. That kind of happiness only gives unhappiness, results in unhappiness. Dukkha yonaya evate. Adyantavantah, that means they have a beginning and an end, short-lived, fleeting happiness. Therefore, a wise person, Buddha, nateshu ramate, does not seek any delight in those things. But the Buddha wise person does this one, explained in chapter 20. Atmani tushyati. Atmana atmanam pashyan atmani tushyati. Second line of verse 20. By remaining absorbed in the self, by the self, one takes delight in the self alone. That is how we should strive to remain absorbed in the self. Self or self for jnanis or our Ishtadevata, chosen ideal for devotees. Nothing else. So we go to shloka number 21. This gives extremely indescribable, extreme joy, this kind of meditation. 21. Sukhamatyantikam yattad buddhigrahyamati indriyam vetti yatra na chaivayam sthitas chalati tattvataha. When the yogin experiences the endless bliss beyond the senses that may be grasped only by the intellect, becomes steadfast and does not move away from the truth. That is the object of meditation, to remain absorbed in the self. Experiences endless bliss. Atyantikam sukham. Sukham atyantikam. Atyantika means supreme joy. Not the kind of happiness that world gives. Temporary, conditional, not like that. Buddhigrahyam, which can be grasped only by a pure mind, pure intellect. Ordinary intellect cannot grasp that kind of joy. The most we can visualize is how much happiness I will have if I do this, if I get that. That is not true happiness. We can't even visualize with our ordinary minds, impure minds, the kind of joy that meditation brings. Dwelling on the self brings. Buddhi grahyam atindriyam, beyond the senses, not sensory pleasures. Sensory pleasures, as we saw in chapter 5, verse 22, they are very limited. Sensory pleasures means food, for example. The sense of taste gives happiness when we eat very tasty food. But how much happiness will it give? Really not much, very temporary. As long as you're eating, you feel very good. And after eating, then it stops, and if you eat too much, then problem will come. Like that. It's an example of sensory pleasure, sensory happiness. Samsparshaja bhoga. That is not true happiness at all. The happiness that comes from property, possessions, money, relationship, that is all temporary and highly conditional. That's not true happiness at all. That's what people seek generally. Here it says, atindriyam, not sensory pleasure. Indriya means sense organs. Not happiness coming through sense organs, from contact with sense object. Not that kind of happiness. Atindriyam, beyond the senses. Coming from the fountain of joy, intrinsically present within us. We are that. It's not something that we have. It is what we truly are. Satchidananda. Every moment. It has never been anything other than that. But we are not aware of it. That ignorance can be removed by meditation. Buddhi grahi mati indriyam, beyond the senses. Yatra ayam stitaha tattvata chalati. Becomes steadfast and does not move away. Tattvataha na chalati. Does not move away from the truth. Tattva means the truth. Truth is the Atman. From the Atman tattvataha ayam na chalati. A person does not depart, does not leave it. Once you are absorbed in it, you don't feel like thinking about anything about the world at all. Nothing becomes interesting or exciting, worldly things. Everything pales, all worldly pleasures pale into insignificance compared with the joy of the self. Atmananda. Earlier we saw three kinds of joy. Vishayananda, sensory pleasures, and Bhajanananda, the joy of worship, the joy of chanting God's name, worshipping in different ways. Any kind of worship, chanting God's names, japa, meditation, all those things, thinking about God, worshipping God in different ways, and chanting the name of God, Sahasranama, all those hymns, that gives the kind of joy that does not deplete the sense organs as sensory pleasures do. That paves the way for Brahmananda, the extreme highest kind of joy. So Bhajanananda is a bridge between Vishaya Sukha, sensory pleasures, and Atmananda, the joy of the self. This being described here. Atyamtikam Sukham Buddhi Grahya Matindriyam. The joy coming from the self in meditation is supreme, extreme joy. Atyantikam cannot be, there is no limit to it. Not limited by time or anything. Buddhi grahyam can be grasped only by a pure intellect. Atindriyam, beyond the domain of senses, not sensory pleasure. That is the kind of joy that meditation brings. By achieving this kind of concentration in meditation, a person remains steady, unaffected by anything that can create problem. That is explained in verse number 22. Let's go to 22. Yam labdva cha param labham manyate nadikam tataha yasmin sthito na dukkhena gurunapi vichalyate. That prize, winning which one deems no other greater, established in which one is not overpowered even by grievous pain. When a person is established in that kind of meditation, no problem, no pain will affect that person. We'll understand with an example. Yam labdva, by gaining which, labha means gain, by gaining that kind of concentration, tataha adhikam labham aparam namanyate. There is no other gain greater than that. What is the highest thing that one can gain in this world? Adhikam labha. Adhika labha. Greatest gain one can get. A person can accumulate lot of money, billions of dollars. That is not gain at all. What happens? Money, you can only use so much, even if a billion. How much can you use actually in your everyday life? You eat the same amount of food, you only wear one set of cloth at a time, you only sleep in one room at a time. Money is there, but money does not equal to happiness. So that is not the highest a person can gain. What else can I gain? Fame, etc., youth, beauty, sensory pleasure, they are all fleeting. Adyantavantaha, they are not permanent and they are conditional. They always come mixed with some kind of negative feeling. So that's not what a person can gain. Yam labdva, by gaining that kind of concentration and meditation, tataha adhikam labham aparam namanyate. A person cannot think of any other labha gain greater than that, higher than that. Tata adhikam. Yasmin sthitaha, a person who remains established in this kind of meditation, what happens? Gurunapi dukkhena na vichalyate. Guru means heavy. Guru means a teacher. Guru also is a planet. Guru also means heavy. Gurunapi dukkhena, even by the severest of calamities, na vichalyate. Such a person remains unshaken. Chalana means movement or shaking. Na vichalyate, remains unshaken, unperturbed, no matter what happens. If a person comes and beats you up, you won't feel the pain. Actually, there was a Avadhuta not too long ago. His name was Gajanan Maharaj in Maharashtra. You have heard about him? There is a town called Shegaon. There he used to live in Maharashtra. I went there once. The ashrama is there. He was an Avadhuta. Avadhuta means a person who has reached highest achievement and does not care for social conventions. Whether it's dressed properly or not, whether it's sitting here or there, or it doesn't matter. Their mind is not on the body or on the world. Their mind is absorbed in this. Avadhutas are like that. They appear like madmen to other people. They are not mad. So this Gajanan Maharaj was a Avadhuta, and he had no conventions. He would just put on a shawl or a cloth, not properly clad, and he would hold a chillam and be absorbed. He would smoke chillam like that and remain absolutely joyful. On his face, I was only in the photo, I didn't see him. The photo shows absolute joy on his face, nothing on his body, just a shawl or something. Sitting somewhere. Doesn't matter where he is sitting, who is there. Such a person, many people thought he was a fake. So those people who didn't like him, they wanted to test whether he is true Avadhuta or simply pretending to be an Avadhuta. So they did all kinds of things to disturb him. Nothing bothered him. Once they hired a couple of thugs to go and beat him up for money. So a couple of people went there with sticks and started beating him up. And people are beating him. He's simply sitting there joyfully smoking the chillam as if nothing is happening. The sticks broke and they became dead and they went away. Nothing bothered him. So many incidents in Gajanan Maharaj, Avadhutas are like that. A person is absorbed in the self, no calamity, no pain, nothing bothers. One example. Second example, Swami Turiyananda, about whom you have heard. Swami Turiyananda was in this country, in New York and California. Then he went back to India in 1902 and lived in Varanasi until he passed away. Great yogi, great tapasvi. You should read his biography and his teachings. Swami Chidananda wrote letters. Those days, fortunately, there was no typewriter or computer. The letters had to be written by hand, so those are saved. About 130, 140 letters that he wrote, and some in Bengali, some in English. Those have been translated and published by Swami Chidananda ji. You know the title of the book, many of you know, you have heard from me, Spiritual Treasures. Why I am saying this is, verse number 22. A person who is adept in meditation can stay on the self, can remain unaffected by the severest calamity. Swami Chidananda was an example of that one. So he had, when he was staying in Varanasi, I had severe diabetes. Those days there was no medicine for diabetes. Some homeopathic goli that doesn't do anything. Severe diabetes. And complications came and carbuncles appeared on his back. Not one, several carbuncles. Extremely painful. There were no painkillers those days. These days we have very powerful painkillers and we can deal with pain. There is nothing like that. But he remains unaffected. Remained unaffected. So much pain. So much discomfort. So the surgeons, the doctors decided to do operation on a big carbuncle on his back. He said, if you want to do, you do, but I am not going to take any anesthesia. Those days anesthesia was also not like the modern, some chloroform or something. He refused. The doctor said, Maharaj, this is a very severe, big operation. Even without operation is so much pain, and operation is a lot of pain. You have to take anesthesia. He said, no. He said, give me 5 minutes before you start the procedure, I will be ready. And the doctors came and they set up everything and they said, we'll start. Then he withdrew his mind from the body. He was a great yogi. It's thrilling to read that incident in his biography. And they read the whole operation. It took a long time. He remained absolutely unaffected. Such a great yogi. Such a great yogi over there and are there now. Swami Turiyananda, Sri Ramakrishna's disciple. He was like that from beginning of his life. When he was a very young man, he went to take bath in a river. And many people were taking bath in a river, and he was swimming in the middle of the river. All of a sudden there was a huge hue and cry. People started screaming, crocodile, crocodile has come, crocodile has come. A crocodile came there where people are swimming, and everybody swam back to the shore, bank of the river. Swami Chidananda also was, Harinath was his name at that time. He also, along with other people, went to the bank and stood there and saw the crocodile. Then he thought, how shameful of me. This is what he thought. Every day I think, I study Vedanta, I think I am not the body, I am the Atman, nothing happens to the Atman. Atman does not have birth or death. And I say that one. Still, when I say crocodile, like everybody else, I also run away from it to save my body. I am practicing Vedanta. No. He jumped back and straight went to the same place where he was taking bath, where the crocodile was. Everybody was telling him, what are you doing? He went there. Leisurely he took bath there. The crocodile went away, didn't do anything. That incident happened. Such a person, how did he get that power? So many things like that in his life. That is what yoga does. Explaining 622. Yasmin sthito gurunapi dukkhena na vichalyate. Established in this yoga, even by the severest of calamities, a person remains unaffected. That's what meditation yoga can do. So we go to sloka number 23. Tamvidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samjitam sanishchayeno yoktavyo yogo nirvinna chetasa. Know that to be styled yoga, which consists in distinction from experienced pain This yoga has slowly got to be practiced with an undejected mind. The practice of yoga, what does it do? As we saw in the previous verse, no calamity can touch such a person. Here it says that yoga samhitam vidyat. You should know that as yoga, which dukkha samyoga viyogam. Viyoga means separation, which causes separation from contact with dukkha. Dukkha means suffering of all kinds. Dukkha samyoga means combination. Our life is dukkha samyoga, because our life, no matter how comfortable we are, always there is some dukkha. Some kind of problem is there in everybody's life, or will be there. That dukkha samyoga means that contact with dukkha, viyogam. Yoga breaks that contact. Dukkha samyoga viyogam. Yoga means separate. So yoga separates that contact with dukkha. That means frees from dukkha. Makes us free from dukkha. Yoga means practice of meditation. That is called yoga. Yoga samhitam. That is called yoga. Tam yoga samhitam vidyat. Dukkha samyoga viyogam. That is called yoga, which separates us from the contact with dukkha. That means which makes us free from dukkha of all kinds. Saha such a yoga nishchayena yoktavyaha has to be practiced firmly, unwaveringly, anirvinna chetasa, with an undejected mind. People become disappointed if they practice meditation and they don't find any concentration, they become dejected. So this is not for me, it's too difficult. No, we should not easily give up. Persistence in the practice of yoga. It takes a long time, but it is the highest thing that we can achieve. Because yoga, meditation is something that separates us from our association with dukkha. That means removes all dukkha from our mind, as seen in the previous verse. For a yogi, no dukkha will touch him. Even if people come and beat him up, whatever he does, people do to him, he remains unaffected, joyful, from the joy from the emanating from the self within, like Gajanan Maharaj and Swami Turiyananda. No matter how much pain was there, they remained unaffected. That is what practice of meditation, yoga does. So yoga is that which separates us from misery. That yoga is to be practiced with an undejected mind. Anirvedna chetasa sa yoga yoktavyaha. Anirvedna chetasa. So we should not become dejected or disappointed. Persistence is needed. Then 24. Sankalpa prabhavan kaman tyaktva sarvana sheshataha manasevendriya gramam viniyamya samantataha shanai shanairu paramed buddhya dhritigruhitaya atmasamstham manah kritva nakinchidapi chintayet. How to practice meditation are given in these two verses, 24-25, we can study together. Sankalpa prabhavan kaman asheshata sarvan tyaktva. Giving up wholly, asheshata means completely. Giving up wholly all desires, born of mental constructions, sankalpa, and controlling on all sides the senses with the mind, withdraw gradually with the help of the resolute intellect. Anchoring the mind in the self, think of nothing whatsoever, nothing else. How to practice meditation? Some hints are given here. First thing is giving up desire for sensory pleasures. Main thing. That's what is the main abstraction in meditation. First line of 24. Sarvan kaman, all desires. Sankalpa prabhavan, arising out of desire for enjoyment. Sankalpa. Asheshatah tyaktva, giving up completely. If you harbor, entertain desires in our mind, then the desires will be the obstruction. They won't let us meditate. Mind goes to the desire. If I do this, I'll be happier. If I get that, I'll be happy. That kind of sankalpa, desire for happiness, if it is in the mind, then we cannot meditate. Mind goes towards the desire. So first thing is asheshatah sarvan kaman tyaktva, giving up all desires. Indriya gramam. Grama means a village. Grama here means a group. Indriya grama means all the sense organs, group of sense organs. 10 sense organs. Mind also. Indriya gramam manasa eva viniyamya. How to control? By mind alone. Mind is also a sense organ. Mind is also the control of other sense organs. There is no other instrument to do anything. Mind is the instrument. Manasa eva, by mind alone. Indriya gramam samantatah viniyamya, controlling from all sides. Samantata means from all sides. Things are attractive that we want to see. Some things are attracting our attention that we want to hear. Some things are there which attract our attention that make us want to eat something tasty food. All these are various kinds of temptations. So controlling all these temptations by the mind. Manasa eva indriya gramam samantata viniyamya. Controlling all the sense organs, all the temptations, doing this, giving up desires. Then continuation, 25. Shanaihi. Shani means the planet Shani, Saturn. Why it is called Shani? Because it moves very slowly. In every planet, zodiac, it remains for 2.5 years. Very slow movement around the sun. So Shani means slow. Shani means slowly. Not abruptly, or you can't do it very fast. Meditation is something that you cannot speed up. You have to slowly practice every day, patiently. Dhritigrihitaya buddhya uparamet. Dhriti means will, steadiness. Dhritigrihitaya buddhya, with a mind, with an intellect, combined with steadiness. With the help of resolute intellect, Dhritigrihitaya buddhya, with the help of resolute intellect, Shani Ruparamet, withdraw gradually, slowly, Manaha Atma Samstam Kritva, making the mind dwelling on the Atman. Manaha, mind, Atma Samstam Kritva, making the mind dwelling on the self, keeping the mind fixed on the self, not on anything else. Nakinchidapi chintayet. We should not think of anything else, at least not during meditation. When it's doing for meditation, all other thoughts have to be excluded. Only the object of meditation. That is, we have to practice year after year, month after month, year after year. It's not something that's going to happen in a day or two or a month or two. It has to be persistently, patiently practiced. That is what meditation is, and that brings the benefits we saw before. Freedom from all miseries, dukkha samyoga viyogam, and even the severest of calamity, gurunapi dukkhe nana vichalyate, person remains unaffected. So withdraw gradually, uparamet, with the help of the resolute intellect. Dhritigrihetaya buddhya, Anchoring the mind on the self, Atma Samstam Mana Kritva, keeping the mind fixed on the self, Atman, or Anurishta Devata. Nakinchadapi chintayet. One should not think of anything else. This is how to practice meditation. Practice of meditation, how to do, is being described in these two verses, 24-25. Now comes the key shloka in meditation practice, number 26. Many of you have heard this from me before. So let us do number 26. What to do when a distracting thought comes to the mind in meditation? How to deal with it, how to treat. That is in verse 26. Yato yato nischarati manaschanchalamassthiram tatastato niyam yetad atmanyeva vasham nayet. There is no secret or shortcut, age-old method. Yato yato nischarati manaha chanchalam asthiram. The mind is chanchala, fickle, asthira, not steady. That we know. The mind is fickle and unsteady. Yato yato nischarati. As it goes away, nischarati means goes away in different directions from the object of meditation. You want to meditate on your chosen ideal. After 5 seconds, the mind is going somewhere else, has gone away somewhere. How it goes there so fast, we can't even keep track of it. As the mind goes away in different directions from the object of meditation, tatastataha, from all those digressions, niyamya, atmani eva vasham nayet. Niyamya is controlling, bringing it back. As soon as the mind strays away from the object of meditation, we should be watching what the mind is thinking about. Otherwise, it will go from topic to topic and we will end up somewhere and we don't know how we ended up there. If you are not watching. Carefully, we should watch the movement of the mind every moment during daytime also. Every now and then we should catch, why am I thinking about this now? How is this related to my life? We find ourselves thinking something totally irrelevant. For a long time we will be thinking. And if you don't control, if you are not aware, time goes like that. Why am I thinking about this now? We should take stock and ask periodically. Periodically we should check what our mind is thinking. During the day, throughout the day, we have to do this exercise. Otherwise, if you let the mind go wherever it wants, it goes wherever it wants, and the whole 2-3 hours have gone and we have not done anything. Daydreaming, that should not be allowed to happen. Periodically we should check our mind. What am I thinking? Is this relevant? Is this what I should be thinking now? Bring it back to the relevant topic, relevant subject. That's what we should do. Yato yato manaha nischarati. As the mind goes away in different directions, mana chanchalam asthiram. The restless, unsteady mind, as it goes away in different directions, tatastata, from all those digressions, niyamya, controlling the mind, atmani eva vasham nayet. We should bring it back and make it dwell on the Atman. Atman or a chosen ideal on whom you are meditating. As many times as the mind goes away in different directions, so many times patiently you bring it back and make it dwell on the self. That's what this verse says. This is, I give an example. You are taking a dog for a walk on the sidewalk, and you have to have a leash regulation. So you hold the leash, 6 feet long leash in your hand, and you are walking, and the dog is either following you or in front of you. So the dog does not go in a straight line. It goes a few steps, and then it sees a car and goes towards the car. Then what you should do? You should gently bring it back. You should not become angry and beat it up. When it goes there, just give a gentle tug, it will come back. It will take 4 steps in front of you, then it sees a tree and goes towards the tree. That's the nature of the dog. When it goes away from the path, again give a gentle tug. Don't become angry and impatient. Gentle tug. Then it takes a few steps in front of you and then sees another dog and goes towards the other dog. Again a gentle tug. The mind is like that. 4 seconds it will think about the object of meditation, then go somewhere else. Gently bring it back. If you become upset and impatient, then it won't work. Gently bring it back. No, not that, come back. This is what I have to meditate upon now. Keeping a picture helps in front of you. Otherwise the mind will go everywhere. If you open the eyes and see the picture, then it will come back to the picture of the chosen ideal. As many times as the mind goes away from the object of meditation, so many times patiently, without becoming upset, bring it back and make it dwell on the object of meditation. That is the process of meditation. How else do we succeed in meditation? Watching the mind. To be able to know whether the mind is on the object of meditation or not, we have to be watchful. If you don't watch, it will go anywhere and anywhere, and we don't even know how we ended up there. Constantly watching what the mind is thinking. And then if the moment it goes away, quickly bring it back. Make it dwell on the subject. So for this we should be constantly watchful, mindful meditation. If you are not watching, it goes anywhere, from one topic to another topic, and we don't even know how we ended up there. So constantly watching the movement of the mind, and the moment it goes away, that moment you bring it back. Do this repeatedly. It may take thousands of times. That's how we have to meditate. There is no other shortcut. So this is the technique of meditation. Yato yato nischarati manaschancalamassthiram tatastato niyamnyetad atmanyeva vasham nayet. The yogin should bring the fickle and unsteady mind under the sole control of the self, withdrawing it from all causes, whatever that make it sally forth. Whatever direction the mind goes away, from all those digressions, bring it back and make it dwell on the self. It's the only thing we have to constantly keep on doing. Then what happens? The mind gradually, the frequency of digression becomes less and less with constant practice. The frequency with which mind goes away becomes less. It digresses less and less. It takes a long time to practice. Then gradually, with the grace of God, the mind will dwell constantly on the object of meditation. For that state of to achieve, like a flame in a windless place, unwavering, to achieve that state of total concentration, it takes a long time and a sustained effort, patient effort. It's not something that can be achieved in a day or two or a month or two. That is the meditation. So it's 26. So then the remaining next 2 shlokas explain the state of such a mind person who has succeeded in meditation. Then 29, 30, those are key shlokas. Seeing the same divine presence in all. 29, 30. That's the theme of many Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita and other places. Same divine presence is in all animals, in plants, in good people, in wicked people, in bad people, in men, women, children, everything. We already saw this one. Treating everybody, seeing divine presence in them. In 5:18, please remember 18th verse in chapter 5 and also 9th verse in chapter 6 which we studied. 5:18 is an important verse. What does it say? Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini sunichaiva svapakecha pandita samadarshinaha. Pandita means wise people. The samadarshins, the same sightedness. They see everybody alike, beginning from Vidyavaniya Sampanna Brahmana, a person of highest qualification endowed with humility, seeker of Brahman, a knower of Brahman. And animals also. Gavi, go means cow. Hastini, elephant. Shuni, dog also. Swapaka, a person lowest class of society with no education or culture. Highest, best person, this person with no education or culture. Not his fault, but his circumstances of his life. He can become a great yogi. Everybody has same potential. So we should treat everybody alike. How? Seeing same God in all. That seeing same God in all, same divine presence in all, is a key point that we have to always remember and practice. That is explained in 29:30. We will come to the study that next time. Now it is time. I shall say the closing prayer. And if you have questions, please let me know. And I will be happy to answer to the best of my knowledge. Closing prayer. Om Sarve Bhavanta Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may all be happy. May all be free from diseases and suffering. May all understand and practice what is ideal, noble and auspicious. May no one be subject to misery. Om peace. May there be peace and joy in our hearts. Adhyatmika Shanti. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. No ill will, no hatred. Adi Bhautika Shanti. May there be peace everywhere in nature. Adi Daivika Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. All of you stay well and stay in touch. Thank you. Namaskar.